I'm moving the conversation forward, though, to talk instead about what makes this year's secondary different or similar to the Legion of Boom. I have seen so many comparisons, Bump, to what the team has this year in their secondary group and the team at its best. And I think it makes sense. I mean, when this defense was at its very, very best, not only did they have a really great, rotation up front on the defensive line and great linebackers, they had the best secondary in all of football. I think that sometimes this is not weird. We've done this, every year, every other year with the Seahawks. You look at something they have and you go, oh, this is their new Earl. This is their new Cam. This is their new Sherm. Like, it's just, you want to find every team that goes to a Super Bowl is going to do this. Like, the Patriots are going to, for the rest of time, say, have they found their new Tom Brady? Like, it's just something that's going to happen. So what I wanted to do was answer that question more fully. Looking at this secondary, is this their new Legion of Boom, or is this actually a very different group of guys with very different skill sets?
I think they're different because when I look at this defense, let's start at the safety spot. All right, you had Earl and you had Cam. Cam is a safety that we'll probably never see again, or at least alive for the next 10 to 12 years. He's big. He should have been an outside backer, a rush in, but he's playing safety and he's roaming, and he was allowed to play the position in a way that will get you arrested in today's game.
Will get you kicked right out of a game.
The social media will get you.
Easy.
Yeah. So I look at that and I go, okay, nah, you can't do that. That's why they were the Legion of Doom. One, because they hit you hard, right? And Cam led the way when it comes to that. Then you look at Earl. Earl was the freelancer back there. He would do some things that Coach Carroll probably didn't coach up in that way, but because he was so good, he was allowed to get away with it. I used to watch film on Deion Sanders and the way he used to bait quarterbacks to throw to receivers. Only certain people can bait the best football players in the world into doing things because they're that good. So on the back end, Quandre's our guy. He's our freelancer. He's just a different type of freelancer. I mean, my guy had recorded, 3 seasons in a row with at least 5 interceptions. He's more of a hitter than I feel like Earl Thomas was. And people are going to say, oh, he missed a lot of tackles last year. Okay, I understand that, but that's his game, right? And then I look at the linebacker spot. We got good old Bobby back. Bobby is there, but this time we have Devin Bush on the side of him when typically we had Malcolm and KJ Wright in there. I look at Devin Bush, he's more of a speed type of linebacker. And then we go down to the defensive line, and where that Seahawk defense differs from this defense the most is the rotation that they had at defensive line. Cliff Averill was in with us last week. Michael Bennett was in with us last week. And Cliff said, people forget that me and Mike B weren't even starting. We were rotation coming off the bench there. So I like the Seahawks first guys out there. We just don't know what that rotation is going to look like yet. So it's natural for us to want to compare and contrast and say, okay, have we found the next Legion of Doom? I say no. I say the game is different. I say personnel is different. The closest thing on that defense, I would say, is Tariq Woolen and Richard Sherman, just because they're both longer type of receivers and got a bunch of interceptions, even though Tariq Woolen is way faster than Richard Sherman was.
Now, I can't blame anyone for this, but Bump, I got to be totally honest. Sometimes comparisons drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like, in the worst way. Like, I understand anyone looking at a version of a team that they loved and hoping and praying that they can see that version again. Why wouldn't you? This is the only Seahawks team to win a Super Bowl, and they did it in no small part because of this group of men in the secondary. Now, they had, and this is another thing that drives me crazy about looking back on that version of the Seahawks, is people forget that, like, how good Marshawn Lynch was, and honestly how good and dynamic Russell Wilson was. And how good the guys up front were, and the linebackers, and the guys in the front seven as a whole. Like, they kind of conveniently forget that in order to win 13-plus games, you need the entire team, not just your secondary, to be great. But I also think, like, it's okay to want something new and to see something new, and to not constantly search to repeat what you had before. Because I'm telling you right now, if you spend the rest of your life searching for another combo of Earl, Cam, and Sherm, I think you're going to die without seeing that. And I know that sounds dark, but you're not going to find that.
Yeah, Legion of Boom, Stace, not Legion of Doom.
I said, oh,
No,
someone
I
said,
did. I
oh.
did. I did.
Well, hey, for a lot of people, it was Legion of Doom.
Yeah, Legion of Doom. Yep.
For people
That's-
on other teams.
that's the way I was saying. I was coming from the opponent's perspective.
Exactly.
But and just like the personnel changes on the defense, the game has changed, and I think you make a good point too. You needed that offense to be what it was. It's not like you were the Baltimore Ravens and your offense was only putting up 8 to 10 points a game.
People want to act like it was like Trent Dilfer out there.
No, that offense had a 12 to 1,300 yard running back. You had a couple 800-yard receivers, and you had a quarterback that was dynamic as heck. Were the Legion the front runners, the guys who were the identity of the football team? Most definitely. But it wasn't like offensively they weren't putting up points.
Yeah, no. I think that, again, it just kind of shapes the way that we see how you can win. And I don't know, like you can win in different ways. You're always going to need, the one thing you're always going to need that the vast majority of Super Bowl winning teams have is like a great quarterback, ultimately. End of the day. I don't care what anyone says about like, oh, but Nick Foles was out there. No, Trent Dilfer was out there. Okay, well, do you have that Ravens defense?
No.
Did you have Carson Wentz and that entire Eagles team out there for 13 weeks? No. So you're going to need great quarterback play. Yeah. But I also think that like if I were to pick a place where my team could be great this year, I would choose up front. Like I would want to choose the trenches. I would want to choose the defensive line if I could wave a magic wand and choose where the strength of my defense could be.
And that could be the difference, right? Because on the back end of this team, I wouldn't call it a finesse type of game, but it's not what that team was back in the day, you know? And up front, I feel, and the teams is constructed differently. This team, you look at this team is constructed defensively on speed. You look at every position, speed and quickness, right? Your corners, you got Devin Witherspoon, you got Tariq, your safeties, you got the guys in your box. Now, Bobby's your more traditional backer, but you got Devin Bush. You look at that line. They drafted an edge rusher in Derek Hall who's quick off the edges. I don't see the physicality in this defense that I saw in that other defense, but that doesn't mean they can't be physical.
It's part of that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And I think they've built it this way because of the way the game has changed itself.
Yeah.
So you got to have players who fit what the game is today.
I was going to ask, is part of that a rules thing, or is that a way the game has changed in terms of like pass-heavy offenses?
It's both. It's everything. And I think that's what Pete does a great job of doing. I think the one place where you can be stubborn in your approach is offense, because the defense always has to adjust to what the offense is doing. If you just want to be a double tight, run heavy team, take a couple shots, you can be exactly that. The defense has to adjust. But this defense has adjusted to what most of the league is doing, which is getting guys on the perimeter and throwing the ball across the yard.
Someone said, as Bump would say, the Legion of Boom, no longer with us.
It's Doom, apparently. It's the Doom.
Yeah, everyone's making fun of Bump inadvertently renamed our new defense the Legion of Doom. Is that what happened? I hope in a really good way.